It sounds like you trying to go down. It sounds like you trying to go down that route of gentle parenting
Okay,
with
so
with
let's
dad.
let's use that. Let's use gentle parenting versus being assertive and aggressive. I think Lawrence was more assertive and aggressive. And I'll use you, Mr. Best, as being, say, more of the gentle
I
parenting. What is there
I
a
am not a
correct
gentle
way?
parent.
Well, no, I know you're not, but I'm just using it as an example. Is it a difference in how the message comes across as to what you learned when it comes to chivalry
I
and
be
teaching?
Hey, hey, what do you say? Time to get comfy and start the evening. It's Sharita and Connie, and you're on the couch.
Hello, 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 and happy Thursday. It is a wonderful day in the neighborhood. It's a hot day in the neighborhood, but it's a wonderful day in the neighborhood. Thank you for joining us here on the couch, Hindsight Media 103.5 FM. Yeah, we got Connie here today, Mr. Best here today. We got another hot topic here today. But before we get started, wanted to give all honor and glory and thanks to God for just allowing us to have another segment, another day, just to be here. It's been a long week for me, and I'm sure for these guys too. But thank you, listeners, for just joining us here today on the couch. Connie and Mr. Best, what is up? What's
Hello,
going
hello,
on?
everybody out there in podcast land. As Sharita said, praise and honor to God. And yes, it has been a long week. For a single person, I have so much to do. I don't see how people with children, or at least even one child, how do they do it? I mean, between going
You
to
just
two
get up and
jobs,
go.
mowing the
You
front
get up
yard
and
and the
go.
backyard, and I get up and go, and it just seems like my list keeps getting. The more I cross stuff off, the more stuff gets added to it. But anywho, I'm grateful to be here, still in my right mind, I guess, and
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
trying to hang in there and make it do what it do, because
I
that
know
that's
that's
what life
right.
requires. Got to do what you got to do.
That's it. What's going on, Joshua? Pastor
um you
Best?
know nothing much. Nothing much. This was a pretty interesting week. We
Yeah.
had the runoff here in Georgia on Tuesday, so I worked that. And
Okay.
Oh,
tomorrow we get to celebrate Juneteenth. So I'm not claiming that whole long week thing y'all been talking about, because I get a nice little 3-day weekend. So this week. This is my Friday. So I don't care what y'all got. I don't care what's going on. This is my
and
Friday
that's
this
good.
week. I'm
That's
finna
good.
Yeah, we've had
That's
I'm
good.
finna
vacation Bible school that we've had to contend with, so it's been one of those, and I think some churches are still doing their vacation Bible school. And yeah, everybody, all the kids are out for the summer. Joshua talked about the elections and stuff. I have no idea how any of that works. What are we?
what
Is
you,
there
what you
like
mean you don't have
what's?
no
Are we
idea
voting?
how?
What are we voting for? Like what?
What do you
Stop it.
mean?
You're
What are we
What
embarrassing
voting
what are
for?
us.
we what are we voting for? No, and I think the reason why I asked that question. So we've done. So are we like in a runoff or of
He
some
just said
Yes,
sort?
that.
that's
And
yes,
every
yes.
county is different. No, I mean I know that, but I know every county is different. I don't know where we sit in our county as far as runoff. I'm in Stone Mountain. I know
DeKalb County.
Atlanta
Yes,
wise, Keisha Lance Bottoms and John on Ossoff. I can't,
yes.
I don't know the other people that are.
Keisha Lance Bottoms is the Democratic candidate for governor, and John Ossoff is running for he's running for like House of Representatives.
So
He's
when
a
do we
Democratic
vote?
candidate for the
When
House,
do we vote?
and the same time you vote every year, November.
Oh, so that's when the real election, the big, okay. That's all I wanted to know. Don't be
I,
trying to get cute.
And
we
see,
got to
if
get
she
cute
feels
because
that way,
If
there
I
are hundreds of thousands of people like that.
Hello.
We
So
need the vote.
I'm asking for the people who probably don't know, because I'm one of those people who don't know. I don't stay in the loop.
we
I only know because of what's happening. So yeah, okay, then I'll go out and vote, early vote or whatever. So yeah, I
we need to get you
see. I
we need to get you
Hey,
back in
if I
high
don't
school.
know, I
Sit
don't know.
We need to get you
Civics
back
Civics,
in high
class.
school
is
civics
that
class.
I probably do need a crash course in all of that because I'm like I don't want to miss
You
it.
do.
I
And you
definitely don't
Doing
better
a
want to
lot
not
of
miss
better
it.
vote.
I'm gonna vote. I want to vote. I definitely want to because I know a lot of people don't vote in the countywide stuff, you know. But then when you get to
that's the most
the which it
that's the
is. That's
most
the most
important.
important one
Yeah.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
vote in. I know a lot of people are looking at it as oh well, you know it doesn't matter, but
Well, don't
it
look
really
at it like
does.
that way. So everybody out
Go
there
out
in
and
podcast
vote.
land,
Go
vote,
vote.
rock the vote. You
Go
need to vote.
vote.
Your vote matters. Your
Go
voice matters.
vote.
Your vote, it counts. You might not think it does, but your vote counts. Please vote.
Go vote, go
Yes.
vote, go vote.
Yes.
We definitely need it. So
Yes,
we
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 need
have
it.
a pretty good hot topic on the couch this evening. So we've kind of talked around about relationships and I think the couch within itself is moving in a direction where we get to talk more about mental health because we need that. And granted, you can just about relate just everything back to mental health and relationships. But we've talked about men, we've talked about their role in relationships. Now, something came up for me over the course of the week, and it just kind of made me take a step back into the household. And I don't want to say the Black household, but just men being able to step up and step into the role of being that protection provider when you get into relationships, dating, what's the code of ethic, whatever. But chivalry, when it comes to chivalry, is chivalry dead? Is the idea that
Mm,
chivalry is the idea that men, boys now are being raised differently to do different things? Or are the women of today pushing men out of that role? So when you come back to that question, is chivalry really dead? Is it really dead, or are they being pushed out? Me personally, I would like to say maybe a little bit of both, but I do believe that chivalry is dead. I think it died.
mm.
I mean,
You
what do you
know
guys
That
that
is an
think? What?
interesting.
I haven't now in my day to day doings. I honestly I have encountered. I'm going to say 85%, which I think is a pretty good number of chivalry. Um, Young men, older men opening doors, uh, letting me get on the elevator first. If I drop something, pick it up. So I've encountered a good amount of chivalry. However, I have seen some cases of, especially with the younger men, have no idea. Just just step in front of you. We were at my part-time job in the line. They were serving dinner one night. Few ladies were in line. This guy, he just comes and just gets right in front of us. And one of the supervisors said, "Hey, go to the back. Ladies first." And he looked at us like why? He didn't understand why ladies first. What does that have to do with anything? I just want to get my food. So, but for me, I've had good experience with it. I
Mm-hmm.
have to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I.
I don't. I don't think chivalry is dead, but it is definitely on life support. Um, no, it's definitely on life support
Are we
because
pulling the plug on it, or are we just like, is there a
no, what
DNR? Like,
I,
what's happening?
there's a good amount of women who want chivalry to come back. So y'all definitely, there's definitely they want it
But do we really want it to come
resuscitated.
back? I think most women are
I
probably
do.
at a space and a place where it's kind of like, okay, at this point, I can kind of take it or leave it because
I
the
I would
the
like to take it. I
idea.
think you should come back.
Well, if the person stepping into the role can do what it takes to be in that role, yes, I get that.
What does it
We
take to
like
be chivalrous?
I mean, think about what the definition means. I mean, it's courtesy, code of conduct, it's behavior. You know, the
But that
idea
doesn't
is open up a door. If you see someone
that doesn't
who,
take that doesn't take much.
it
That's not
doesn't
a lot
take,
of
And it
work.
doesn't, but you'd be
it doesn't,
surprised
but
at
you'd
how
be
some men are like, I don't
thank
do that.
you.
I don't
Thank
open
you.
door for nobody.
Thank
I
you.
know you
Thank you.
open your own
I
door.
can remember being at Ross and I had the bags that I had were not, I probably had maybe three, maybe at best, but they were kind of heavy because I had candles in them. And I'm trying to tote these bags, and they were large bags. I'm out to my car. And so a guy was coming in, and I want to say he worked there. And I'm at the door, he's at the door, but he doesn't even hold the door open. And it's kind of like, are you serious right now? Like, what is
Was he young,
happening?
middle, older? He was
He
young.
looked like he might have been in his maybe late 20s, early 30s.
Okay, okay,
But
okay.
still, I mean, even my kid who's 16 will open up a door or hold a door, or he's very courteous and kind, you know. But I don't know what's happening today.
Well, do we
I
feel
I'm
mean,
like
a
the young boys are being taught that at an early age and have that man to
no,
man talk with dad? Do okay.
no, and see that's what I was gonna say, right? Men indirectly, and I can only talk about the black community because I'm black. So,
mm-hmm,
but I think men indirectly are killing chivalry.
mm,
Women are directly killing it, but men are indirectly killing it. And I only say that because with the absence of a man being there,
Yeah, yeah.
a woman doesn't necessarily know. They know about chivalry,
right.
but you don't necessarily know how to teach chivalry, right? Like it's not going to come across the lesson's not going to come across the same way as if a man taught it. Like if a woman
So
says, "Hey,
how?
you're supposed to do this," it's not
Yeah.
going to come across the same way.
So how? So okay,
Okay.
because I want you to definitely expound on that. So how are women indirectly killing chivalry? Because they're not killing
No, no,
it
no,
by
no.
teaching it,
They're killing it by not teaching it
by
because
not the women are killing it by
Okay.
not teaching it.
9 times out of 10, you're talking about a lot of single parent households, right? And if you're
Right.
talking
Mm-hmm.
about a single
Yeah.
parent household, you're talking about 9 times out of 10 a mother raising the child, right? So if you
Mm-hmm.
don't have that male presence, how do you teach male? How do you teach a male man behavior? You know what I'm saying? Like you can
True.
try
True.
to teach a
True. Yeah.
male man behavior, but it's gonna come from the perception of a female.
Yeah.
So men indirectly are killing it by not being present.
Hey, I agree. I agree.
Women are doing it
Yeah.
directly because they're present there and you're trying to be mom and dad when
And
essentially
I agree.
you
But
I
you
have
agree with
know,
that.
never
most
like
women don't have any other choice but to be mom and dad. I mean,
Well,
yeah,
true,
no, no,
but
no,
but
I'm
like he
not
was
arguing that.
saying,
Yeah, I'm not.
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah, like he
we
was
don't.
saying, a woman can teach chivalry, but only from the perspective of knowing how she would want a man to treat her. There was a video on TikTok, one of those reality TV stars, and I love her to death, Lovely Mimi, and she just did a short little skit of her teaching her son how to treat a woman, or opening the car door first. When you're walking down the sidewalk, as a man, you walk on the outside and let the woman walk on the inside. They were going to a restaurant. He opened the door for her, got to the table, telling him, no, you pull out her chair, help her get seated. And at the end of the dinner, whatever, you
Mm-hmm.
pay. So
Right.
it was funny the way they were doing it, but it was a really valuable lesson because a lot of men, I mean, like I said, they just don't. And a woman can teach it from the perspective of how she would want a man to treat her. But still, I do think, like he said, it goes a lot further and hits home when it's coming from a man. And if the man is in the
yeah.
household and if he is just totally just, I don't do that, then, he's not going to teach his son that. And if the son doesn't see the father doing those things, then he's not going to do them either.
But okay, so in asking that question, because as you guys were talking, this is kind of what was coming to my head. So going back into the days of James Evans, Florida, JJ, Thelma, Michael, that household. Do you think starting there that James had an opportunity to teach chivalry? Now, if
The,
and
the,
what I'm lumping into that, because what you guys are talking about having to be mom and dad, that it gets a little hard because mom is having to work now, and I get that there are some single dads, so I want to make sure that I you know drag that in too. But if mom is having to work, cook, clean, do all these things, how does she have time to even teach any of that stuff? James worked, Florida didn't. Now, I would like to think that Florida taught Michael and JJ how to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm not sure if that was something that was the most important thing to be taught at that time. And I kind of feel like the same today. Like, it's forget chivalry. You got to get a job. You got to do this. You got to learn how to save money, stay out of jail, all these things. And do you think that all of that is being replaced?
But
Like,
see, what
where?
you just see, what you just mentioned, and that's one of my favorite. That's my favorite TV family from back in the day, Good Times. What you just mentioned is people being brought up in an atmosphere of survival and not
Mm,
so much love. Now, I think the Evans household tried to balance both when they tried to teach their children honesty and all these different types of things. But most of the stuff you just mentioned is people, and I know because I dated one, he was horrible. They were brought up in an atmosphere of survival and not love. And maybe, and I know his parents, God rest their souls, I know they loved their children,
mm-hmm.
and but when you're brought up in an atmosphere of survival, when you're talked at and not talked to, when
Right.
you have no guidance and mom and
Right.
dad are just going to work every day, they loved you because they provided for you, had food, you
Yeah.
had clothes,
Yeah.
you weren't abused, you were taken care of. But it just and parents are people too, and they're always
Right.
learning, no shade on them.
Right.
But it gets kind of hard on the child because that's all they know. Some people mature out of it, some people just grow old and their surroundings just exacerbate that same behavior. They tend to especially for men, well, really for all people, but men, they'll gravitate to other men that have those same behaviors. They're not going to be friends or hang out
Mm,
with men that are chivalrous. They're going to be hanging
right.
out with the dude, the man, I don't do this, man, I don't do that. I do this, I do that. They hang out with those people. And that just further submits that same behavior. So when they're men of age, they're not chivalrous to a woman because it's just been ingrained in them. This is what I do, this is what I am, this is my daddy didn't do that, granddad and uncle didn't do that. So that, and it just stays in them. Like I said, some people mature out of that and
Right.
knowing that those behaviors are not right, but then some they just stay in it.
well, I'm gonna say
Okay.
this. I'm gonna say this. Like the example you just gave, along with that question, um, James Evans from Good Times, he he was the example. He was the male example, right?
Mm.
Um, so I don't believe in the show Florida taught the kids anything about chivalry. They saw James as an example of
Mm-hmm.
chivalrous behavior.
Right.
Yeah.
So, JJ and Michael, they saw an example. Their father was the example of what a man should act like, what a man should
Hmm.
behave like,
Right.
how a man should talk to his woman, and how. So when you saw them leave the house together, you always saw James. He opened the door.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He opened the door. He made sure everybody got out safe. He closed the door. You know what I'm saying? That was so. Those was behaviors that they saw, and I know we love to say, parents love to say, "Do as I say, not as I do." But
Right.
we
Hmm.
all know that kids model the behavior that they see, right?
Right.
Let's see.
So
Yeah.
that male presence in the household is something that it cannot be replicated. Just like a female
Exactly. I
presence
agree.
in the household
I agree.
cannot be replicated. I cannot teach my daughter how to be a woman, right? I can't do
Yeah,
that.
I agree.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm going to spoil her to death. If I have a daughter, I'm
Yeah.
going to spoil her to death.
Yeah.
That's not going to make for a good character. Me just spoiling her. That's not going to give her good
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
It's just like when the dad is not there. So like you said about the young lady, she can tell him to do all these chivalrous
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if he doesn't have somebody being an example of doing that on a day-to-day, week-to-week type basis, guess what? That lesson is going to be just like what you learned in school. Like, I haven't used fractions
Right.
in a long time, so you know what? I learned
But
it,
what does that even look
but I
like?
ain't got to
Because
use it today.
going back, but like going back to now that's that one example. And by the way, I couldn't stand Florida just so that the general
First
public
of all,
Oh,
knows.
so
listen,
offended.
She kept the
how
family
come, how
down.
come,
When James
how come
found that
every time I
money,
get on
it was just
here,
James, you got to give the money back. Why? You know what?
But she was being
Florida,
honest.
how
she
Being
should have
come
got a
every
honest.
time
job.
I
She should
get
have been
on
working.
here,
She should have got a
you
job. I
you
couldn't
find
stand
a new
Florida.
reason. You
Just
find a new reason
saying.
to get your black card taken away. Why is it every time I get on here?
See, I'm telling you.
You find
I'm
a new
I'm
telling you.
almost
reason.
certain that there are people out there who agree with me that Florida kept
No
the
one
family
agrees
down.
with you.
Yes,
I
they
No one
do.
agrees with you.
let
They
me
do.
tell
You
you.
can't
Let me
hear
tell
them
you
or
this.
see them, but you know they agree with me. She kept the
Let
family
me.
down.
So all of your imaginary friends agree with you.
Listen, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
If we
All
can't
my
hear
all
them or see
my
them,
all my imaginary friends and my personalities, yes, they agree with me. Hands down. She kept the family down. But here's another example. You remember the episode in Boys in the Hood when the mom dropped the son off and she said, and I don't know if he asked her a question. I can't remember, but her response was, I can't teach you how to be a man. I've raised you as much as I could raise you. And so she'd sent him to live with the dad, in I guess Compton, Inglewood, or whatever. So she sends him there to live with dad. Now, I cannot recall all of that particular scene or the scenes that played out. But when you talk about behavior, what's appropriate behavior? Because most men kind of, have you seen Menace? Was it Boys in the Hood? Have you seen Boys in the
A
Hood?
long time ago.
Joshua, I know you have.
how do you know I
It's been
have?
a
Well,
while.
I know you have.
Don't just assume that I've been
No.
up in my
I
black
know
cinema.
you.
You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
I know you have. But I don't know exactly how that plays out. But I think the dad who was played by Lawrence Fishburne. I think he, and y'all correct me, he was a little more aggressive than, say, Mr. Best would probably be if he was teaching his son how to be, that man in talking about chivalry. I know the approaches to how they teach would be different, but I think the character that Lawrence Fishburne played was a little bit more aggressive. People may call it assertive and firm, and that's fine. But I'm labeling it as aggressive and not necessarily a bad thing. I think he was just more probably honest and forthcoming. So what's appropriate? What's appropriate teaching when it comes to chivalry? What does that even really look like? Because there's open, honest, genuine. There's that piece. Then there's, I guess what I may call it, almost sugarcoating, but maybe not necessarily sugarcoating, but not as so much with your chest out, but you're getting the same message across. I mean, do you kind of get what I'm saying? I mean,
It sounds like you trying to go down. It sounds like you trying to go down that route of gentle parenting.
okay, so
dad.
let's use that. Let's use gentle parenting versus being assertive and aggressive. I think I think Lawrence was more assertive and aggressive. And I'll use you, Mr. Best, as being, say, more of the gentle
I
parenting. What is there
I
a
am not a
correct
gentle
way?
parent.
Well, no, I know you're not, but I'm just using it as an example. Is it a difference in how the message comes across as to what you learned when it comes to chivalry
I,
and
I'll be
teaching?
I'll be honest with you. I think as a black man, especially a black man living
Mm-hmm.
in America and living in the deep South, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would not recommend gentle parenting to black boys as a black man
That's interesting.
because because you don't have the leeway. You don't have
Mm.
the leeway to do it.
Okay.
Because e- black boys are considered a threat, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
when you look at them in society, nobody cares how sweet your child is. Like
Right.
my son is sweet. He's a very kind child. But once he gets to be what, 14, 15, he gets a little bit of size on him, they're gonna start looking at him as a man and see him as a threat.
Mm. Okay.
So I don't have I don't have time to be a gentle parent with him. I need to get the message into him
Right.
that hey, you got to behave a certain way. You
Right.
got to act a certain way. You got to do things a certain way. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because and if I don't discipline him in my household, I tell my son all the time. And I tell other people, I discipline my son with love because I know that people outside of my household are not going to discipline him with love. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, and I know this doesn't have anything to do with this particular conversation, but we just watched that whole situation with Carmelo Anthony, where that young
Yeah,
man got
yeah,
35 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And he asserted that he was defending himself. Self defense only works if society views you as somebody who um needs self defense. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You need to defend yourself. If society looks at you as a threat, you're never going to get the benefit of the doubt for self defense. You see
So
what I'm saying? And
how do we marry the two? And I agree with you that you can't teach, you can't be a gentle parent in the black community and teach chivalry. I get that and I understand it, and you're absolutely right. It didn't shift for me until you just said it, but you're absolutely right. How do you marry the two? I mean,
I think we've been doing it. We've been doing it now. I mean, don't get me wrong. Um, is it would we love to be gentle parents? Of course.
mm-hmm.
Would we love? You would love to tell your kid. You would love to, as a black man, you would love to tell your kid, not to have the lesson of this is how you have to act when you getting
Right.
pulled over,
Right.
Yeah.
for a speeding
Yeah.
ticket just so that
Yeah.
you make it back
Yeah.
home, right?
Yeah.
Or you would
Yeah.
love to have the conversation with this is why um the question toxic masculinity and all of
Yeah.
those things happen so much in the
Yeah.
black community because I have to watch out I can't be frustrated, right? And express that in society because then I become the angry black man, right? I have to
Mm.
be consciously watching
Yeah.
how I
Yeah.
behave
Yeah.
so that I'm not perceived a certain way. You
Yeah.
see what I'm saying? So,
I get
Right.
that.
Exactly.
um,
I agree. I agree.
so I have to constantly tone it down. And I have to be considerate of those things. But when we're talking about chivalry, you know what I'm saying? I still have to be the protector. And we also have to remember, we go back. I know a lot of people say, oh, I'm tired of us going back to slavery and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to realize that you cannot erase centuries of treatment to a people and then start talking about segregation, Jim Crow,
Right.
and all of
Right.
those things and
Right.
try to
Right.
act as if that's not going to affect
I get that.
generations. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So when you sit up here and look at it and say, "Oh, I'm gonna abuse this man in front of his wife and kids. So I take away him looking like a protector, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and think that that's not gonna have an effect down the line on the black woman and the black family. You see
And
what I'm saying? You can't do
as
that.
you're saying that, and I think then pulls into the component as we're talking about chivalry and whether or not it's dead or, as Mr. Best said, on life support, mental health. Because just what you just said teeters on that. You know, that black man being broken, Connie has said a lot, being unhealed. What do you do? And especially if you're a single dad and you have your children and maybe they live at home with you, maybe they don't. But you're a single dad and you're having to play mom and dad. But your mental health may not allow you because of your own trauma. And speaking to what you just said, Mr. Best, because your own trauma, that being broken down to be, I don't know, build back up into something somebody else wants you to be. Because in talking about slavery, I mean, that's essentially what it was. You know, I've got to take away, you know, what you feel like you represent, you know. When it comes to mental health, how do you do that? How do you in a place where you're broken and unhealed and dealing with your own trauma as a man? How are you able and capable of still being able to teach that and show that behavior? Not that it's impossible. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but you know, just as much as moms try to teach that in their tiredness, and you know, I'm sure men go through some of the same things.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: it's only going to happen generation by generation by
Mm-hmm.
generation, right? I and my mom was the one that told me this. My mom told me, she was like, my grandfather wasn't a great communicator, right?
Mm-hmm.
My dad isn't the best communicator, especially about talking about his feelings, right? But she was like, you. She told me, she was like, I communicate better.
Did we lose Mr.
Uh,
Best?
I think we did. Uh-oh. We had a
I think we
bleep.
just lost Joshua.
Oh no. And he was on a roll too. I was really interested in
He
hearing
was.
that.
So I hope that he can bring his conversation
Nation back, yeah. And because
back
he was
in when
talking
he,
about communicating, and I think
yeah,
it's too, like you said, goes back to vulnerability, and some people and women, men,
yeah,
being
yeah,
just afraid of being vulnerable, and
yeah.
it's a difficult thing because you don't want to be misunderstood, you don't want to be rejected, don't want to be beat down, and you better do this,
Right,
better not do that.
right,
It comes back to,
right,
to being
right,
vulnerable,
right.
and for
Well,
some people, it's much harder than others.
no, and I agree. So looking at our household growing up, do you think that chivalry was something that was taught at home? Okay, obviously I came along 10 years later.
Yeah, yeah.
But I didn't get to see a lot of maybe what you and Anthony got to see. I don't think I really saw, even when I was coming up, a lot of that. But even if it went on,
I
I don't know where the transition came, you know. But
from
do you remember seeing
from
any
what I
of
remember, I don't think I saw a lot of it, but looking back on it now with an older mind, I think he meant it, and he. Oh, there he goes. Okay, what happened?
you?
I got
He
a, I got a call and it messed up my whole situation. So I
Oh,
It's
the
apologize.
all
whole
good.
setup.
But
Okay,
at least
Um,
okay,
you're
we're
back. But Connie,
yeah.
finish
Now,
what you're saying, and Joshua, I want you to go back to what you were trying to say.
okay.
But I just
Like I said,
asked Connie
I
whether or
don't.
not we saw it at home, so she was just kind of going into that.
I don't remember seeing a lot of it at home. He
Mm-hmm.
was a good dad, a good
Oh
provider.
yeah.
I know he meant well,
Right.
but it wasn't to the fact of where it was terrible because, our brother, uh, you know, he while when growing up, he was pretty much a good kid. I mean, I
Yeah.
think there was a lot of stability.
Yeah.
Like I said, there was some, looking knowing what I know now, like I say, hindsight is
Right.
2020. It could have been
Yeah.
better. That we're all
Yeah.
human,
Right.
but
Right.
looking back on it now, I think he meant well. He did his best.
Yeah. No, I can definitely agree. I mean, we never went hungry. Um,
No,
you know,
no,
we did. We never went hungry.
yeah,
You know, for the most part, anything that we needed, he did.
yeah,
At least, because at some point you guys were transitioning out of the home, but you
yeah,
know, when you're looking at it from that aspect and that perspective, being again because we were still kind of growing up in that era of trying to survive. So I don't know if it was a whole lot of room for trying to teach someone how to open up a door or be a man or kind of whatever that looks like.
Well,
hmm
But no, I
I think you looking at it. Chivalry
am I looking at it from
is
a
not
different
chi-
perspective?
Yeah, chivalry is not a luxury.
Yeah.
Chivalry is not a luxury. Mental health in the black community is a luxury. You know what I'm saying? Like mental health, wellness has been
Mm.
seen as a
Mhm.
luxury in the black community. Chivalry is not a luxury because you can go back, you can watch old movies, you can see older generations. They were very chivalrous.
They
Those
were,
men were
they were,
Yeah.
they were very chivalrous. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like you go back and you talk to somebody in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, those men are
Yeah.
very, very chivalrous.
Yeah.
So chivalry was not seen as a luxury. As a matter of fact, chivalry was seen as a necessity and a requirement for men
Mm.
on how they
Mhm.
behave.
Mhm.
That
hmm
was just what it was. Now, mental health, on the other hand, was seen as a luxury. You know what I'm saying? Because the men had to go out and work, they had to go out and provide. They had to go out and they couldn't take that time off to be worried about, oh, I don't feel good, I'm sad. Today all they was worried about, my kids got to eat. My
yeah.
kids need
I agree.
a roof over
I
their
agree.
head. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have time to deal with this depression, right? And truth be told, a lot of us in the black community, we don't know what healing looks like.
Yeah.
hmm
We know
Yeah,
what coping
Mhm.
looks like,
Mhm.
but we don't
yeah,
know what
Mhm.
yeah.
healing looks like.
I agree
And
with
we
that. I agree
and we
with
go
that.
through a lot of strategies to try to cope with those things. That's why you
hmm
see a lot of alcohol abuse
I
that we
Yes.
agree.
don't talk about because
Yeah.
and we teach alcohol abuse at a young age. Because how many times
Yeah.
have you heard somebody in the black community say, "Oh, I started drinking. I had my first beer when I was like 12." You
Well,
know what I'm
and I've
saying? And
heard that because
then
even with my own clients, black men that I don't get a lot of them, but I do get some that come in, and it's pretty much that same sentiment. Yeah, I learned how to drink from an early age because dad did it, and this is just how I learned how to cope. I learned how to be a man from my uncles or my grandfather or whatever that looks like. But you're absolutely right. It's we know how to cope. We know how to cope. We don't necessarily, at least in the black community, we know how to cope. We don't necessarily know how to deal with these issues. So going back to that question of whether or not chivalry, and maybe we'll have a definitive answer of that, and maybe it's just an ongoing discussion. But is chivalry really dead? Is it? Mr. Best says on life support. I like to think that chivalry is dying because men are kind of being pushed out of that role. And I just think as women become more and more and more and more independent, what responsibility and obligation do men, some of them, I can't say all, whether you're in the black community, Asian community, or whatever, what do they have? What accountability and responsibility are they have? It's kind of like Connie was saying, how the guy just came and jumped in front of them in the line like he was just trying to get his food.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you get to eat, I'm eating. So what does it matter where I am in the line? I mean, you know.
but I'm gonna say this. Two parts to that, right? And this is what I truly believe. Um, Men have to take back um their roles, and I mean take it back. I know that sounds aggressive and assertive, and you may not like that,
I
but
agree.
men
I no,
men
I
have to
totally
men men
agree.
have to men have to take it back because I do believe that in all of this, like America did a number on the black community in
Mm-hmm.
psychological warfare, right?
Yeah.
And feminism did not help, right? Feminism did not help the black community, right? Like
Okay.
if you look at America, black people are still doing the heavy lifting, right? When it
Mm.
came to civil rights, black people did all the heavy lifting and did not get to take full advantage of civil rights, right? They didn't get it. Black people did all the heavy lifting to get affirmative action,
Right.
DEI, all that stuff in this country. And you know who wound up taking the most advantage of all that? White people,
Mm.
right? And they're the majority, but white people, white women took advantage of that. And then you had feminism, which came about, and I have nothing against feminists. I have nothing against women looking for equal rights or
I
anything like that.
hope you don't have
In the
anything against
in
women,
the
Mr.
black
Best.
in the black community, you had feminism come in, right? And all y'all, black women joined white women. They was like, yeah, we want this and we want that, we want this, and black women kept up the fight because y'all have that strength, that resilience to actually
Right.
fight.
Right.
And as soon as women got all these rights and all this equality, look at where white women went. They went right back to the kitchen. They went right back to the house. Went
I
right
didn't think,
back to
yo,
their
you're
old
right.
roles.
Right.
They
Right.
went right back
Right.
to their
Right.
old
Right.
roles.
Right.
And
Right.
look, here we are. Here we are. What, 30 years later, 40 years later,
Yeah.
60 years later, and black women still fighting with they black man about feminist
Yeah,
issues when the
Yeah.
people who
yeah.
started the fight are back in the house,
Which is kind of
laid up under their
crazy.
man.
Which is kind of crazy. And I
So
think you're right because even for my daughter, and she's 10, and she just asked me a question one day, and I bring this up often because I like to use it as an example. She's like, well, how do I know that I found the right person? Like, how do I know who to date, whatever? I said, well, if he can't give you the basics of what you can get for yourself, you don't need him. And I don't know if I'm wrong in, because I teach my kids how to be independent. My son has been independent honestly since pretty much like literally the age of 5. My daughter maybe a year before then, because by the time she turned 5, 6, it was like, Mom, I can do all these things on my own. If I need your help, I'll ask for it. I mean, she's been getting herself ready for school since she's pretty much been in the second or third grade. Like, so because she enjoys doing those things. But I also instilled in them as my dad instilled in me, and it's something that has stuck with me since he said it. Have something of your own. It taught us to not take the easy route, don't take the easy way, but learn how to do for yourself and have something of your own. So that's what I teach my kids, and just listening to you talk about it, Joshua, it's kind of like, okay, am I doing too much as a mom? Am I not allowing, or am I instilling in them the things, but am I doing it? I don't know. I don't want to say not haphazardly, it's not the right word, but am I not allowing their dad to step into the role, especially when it comes to my son, of teaching these things? And he's not an absent parent, but I'm just used to, I want to make sure that they get it, and I want to make sure that they get it right. But it's kind of like, okay, am
what
I
does
am I overstepping my boundary? Like, what am I doing?
what does get it right look like? I guess that's the question. We're talking about human beings. We're talking about individuals. We're talking about people. You know what I'm saying? So
I
what
guess
does
being
get it right
perfect, like
look
here's
like?
here's
And
the A, B, C, D, and E. Like you've got to follow. that line. Like
So you
you've
trying to
got to get it
so you
just
trying
right
to
to the.
you trying to program your kids. You
Is
trying to
that what it
code
is?
them, make them. Yeah, you're programming your kids. You know what I'm saying? Because you want them to look like this. But at some point in time, because they're individuals, you have to
Mm-hmm.
leave room for
Mhm.
individualism.
Right. I get
Oh
that.
no.
Mr. Best is he's busy
He's
getting these calls, but I
I
think
see.
I think he's right when
Yeah, because
you talk
you that
about
individualism,
programming.
even though I don't have kids, I do know you
Yeah,
do need to allow room for growth. But they're going to take what you give them as a good foundation. They're going to
right.
form their own opinions and ways of doing things. And, like I said, they will tend to gravitate to people who do the
Mm-hmm.
same that
Yeah,
they do. And that will
yeah,
reinforce their behavior,
yeah,
let alone what goes on culturally in society with
yeah,
the way things are
yeah.
today. They've got a
Right,
lot to gravitate to, and
right,
they've got a lot to fight against.
right,
So
right,
it's going to be up to that individual person to take what you've given them to build on it, to reshape it, to
right,
reform it.
right.
Hello, take two.
I just
And
turned I just turned my phone off. I was like, let me just
Okay.
turn it off.
and I think you're right because I can remember we went on vacation and um I think there were some people coming out of a door and Jacoby was, he was holding up the door. But you're holding the door and thousands of people are coming, well not thousands, but I mean there's a few people coming through. It's kind of like let the door go easily. They'll catch it. I mean, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But he's like,
Yeah.
no, that's not, you're supposed to be kind and courteous because that's what God would want us to do. I'm like, no, you're absolutely right. I'm not speaking against that. I said, but it's okay. You hold the door, the rule, quote unquote, you let it go. The other people will catch it. But he couldn't, because what's been taught is be courteous, kind. You hold the door, you open the door if you see someone. His dad never stepped in to correct it or to chime in or to say anything. I guess he was just kind of letting me handle it. But thinking about it and what Mr. Best was talking about, being programmed, I definitely want you to elaborate more on that. It's kind of like when do you or how do you, especially for those of us who are now, people are as they're listening are going, okay, well, maybe I am programming my kid and I don't mean to. How do you bridge it? Where's the gap? How do you allow for us that don't know that individualism? Because going back to psychology, Eric Erickson's and the psychosocial stages of development, you have autonomy versus shame and doubt. So, I definitely want my kids to be autonomous, to be the individual, to make the mistakes, to do whatever that is, to have that individualism and not to be ashamed of that, but to also to have some decorum and be productive. And again, relating it to being chivalrous, know and understand time and place to be that, to do that, and but to not be that you don't have to be programmed into doing it, because I get and I understand now that it's not always going to be laid out perfect like that.
I mean, yeah. So when you talk about, like I was saying about being programmed, it's like you said, you're being very meticulous about
Mm-hmm.
making sure they do it this way,
Mm-hmm.
how you want it done. And so you're
Right.
trying to make your kids mirror you,
Yeah.
as opposed to they have their own personality. They're growing up in 2026 and 2025, and they're growing up with social media and all these other things. Like trust me, you want your kids to be individuals in this society,
Yeah.
because we got a lot of followers out there
Mm-hmm.
that, like I was I'm the youth minister, so I was telling the kids, I was like, you remember back in the day, your parents used to ask you if all your friends jumped off a bridge, would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
You notice, don't a lot of people don't ask that question no more. They don't ask that question no more. I think for real, we have a society that is scared to ask that question or even put it in their kids'
I
mind,
think so.
because we're scared that our kid is going to say yes. Because there are a lot of
Mm.
them who Yeah, they would do something that stupid. I mean,
Well,
look at
that's
these
because
social
they,
media trends.
well,
If there was a
it's
TikTok of
that
people
Yeah.
jumping off a bridge, there would
Bridges.
be if there
because
was a TikTok of
because
one
it's
person jumping off a bridge,
is
somebody else would do it.
is what they gravitate toward, and all three of us have said it right here today, is what they have learned to gravitate toward. And if they're gravitating toward that, then that's exactly what they're going to do. I think I remember asking my daughter that question because we were talking about friends and stuff like that. I'm like, if your friend did X, Y, and Z, would you do it? And she was like, no, but probably in the back of some kids' minds, when they're asked that question, they'll say no. But I think in the back of their minds, they say yes because it's what they've learned, what they have gravitated toward, and what they're being taught.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not in it to teach them, then where else are they supposed to get it? I remember a guy friend of mine. We'd been working on set, and we, kind of got to know each other, and so, we got to talking about dads. I think his dad is still living. I don't, but he hasn't been in his life. And so we just kind of got to talking about fathers and teaching. And he said, well, you know what? I've never learned how to be a man from my dad because he just wasn't there. I learned how to be a man from watching TV, from just watching TV, from watching other men, whatever that looks like. That's where I learned how to be a man. Now, granted, this person, for the most part, nice guy, but he was always angry. His temperament was very short. I mean, he just an always angry guy. Now, he had a lot of his own personal issues, which I think contributed to that. But forthcoming, being honest, and I could see it, he was always angry. He was always angry, and so it's like, okay. And if you're too tired for your children to teach them, somebody else is going to do it. And like Mr. Best, brought up, like, you're teaching them how you're programming them to be like you. If you're not teaching them, somebody else is going to come along and do it too. So, yeah, I mean, I think chivalry, when you talk about chivalry and behavior within itself, I think if there isn't something in place, there's behavior and then there's teaching. I get, do as I say and not as I do, but it's not
It's not
necessarily
realistic.
a good
It's
lesson. It's not realistic,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if chivalry is the courtesy, the kind, the behavior, it has to be taught. It you have to be vocal about it, and then there's the behavior that goes along with it. So I don't think chivalry is dead. Now I think I can answer it. I don't think chivalry is dead, but I agree with Mr. Best. I do think that it's on
Yeah.
support.
Yeah.
I do think that it's on life
For the
support.
most part.
And for the most part, and I agree with him when it comes to feminism, I do feel and believe that it's being pushed out and that men need to start coming back in and taking their roles back. I'll give this other example. I was, this had to been when I was in school to do my doctorate, and I remember reading this story. This guy was going into therapy. He was dressing in women's clothing, in his wife's clothes, and she, for the life of her, couldn't figure out and understand what the heck was happening. And throughout the course, basically, the husband, was saying his dad was more, I think, military, and the mom was just, hey, I'll do whatever you tell me to do, kind of situation. Well, the wife of the guy who was kind of doing the cross dressing, she was more of the military, very militaristic. I don't think she was ever in the service, but her behavior, because she took out the trash and she did all these other things that we feel like men should be doing. So what happened was he just kind of gravitated over to the side of his mom, this person that was, I'll do whatever you say, I'm submissive, I'm whatever. He started dressing in her clothing. So, at some point, the therapist is working with this couple, trying to get the wife to understand, hey, you have pulled this man out of this role. He doesn't have any other place to go but what he knows. And that is to fit into, he has to fit into a role. He took the role of the mom. He didn't take the role of the dad. He took the role of the mom, which is why he started dressing in women's clothing. Well, long story short, they the roles became reversed, and the husband was able to be the husband. The wife was able to, she pulled back some. But I think a lot of it too comes from trust. Can I trust you to step into the role to be the man that you need me to be? Well, I don't know, because if you're never allowing me to step into the role, what am I supposed to do? So I agree with Mr. Best. And saying all of that, I agree with him. If we're pushing people out, where else would they have to go but to gravitate toward what they know? So no, chivalry isn't dead. It's just, again, I use the term, it's on life support. And we have a chance and an opportunity to bring it off life support, bring it back alive, and nurture it and do what needs to be done. But are we at the edge where it's...
But is resuscitating it going to be another job for me?
Of course, Connie, it's going to be another job for you. It always is.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not another job.
It always
for the woman.
It always is.
This whole conversation has been about it can't be another job for the woman. That's what I keep saying.
Okay.
Because Connie can't teach a man how to be chivalrous.
I cannot.
She can't give that example. So that's not a job for her. Here's the thing. Connie just has to chill and let the man be chivalrous. Now, that man has to be assertive and be like, hey, sit down. Hey, I get this door. Hey, I'm doing this. He has to step up to the plate. Yeah. And you got to move out the way. Now, because I've learned this when I've had conversations with women, is all this stuff y'all carrying, trying to be the man and do all that type of stuff, y'all don't want the weight. Y'all don't want the weight of the crown that comes with the mantle of being a man and being a leader. Y'all
I get that. I mean, people want
taking it on out of obligation,
right?
But y'all wasn't built for it. Y'all don't want it.
I agree.
Yeah,
and y'all realize that the weight of that crown is heavy. Y'all realize that. Y'all like, I heard a lot of women say, "Take this back," but like you said, they don't trust the man. They don't trust the man to take it back and actually lead them somewhere that they want to go. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with that.
You have to understand and let the man lead you somewhere we need to go,
right?
And not necessarily where we want to go.
I get that.
The process.
Yeah. No, I get that. And it's something that Jill Scott said about being a dominant submissive. Basically, it's, she knows, she's just a woman who knows what she wants, and she doesn't mind a man leading, but you got to know how to lead, and you got to know how to do all these things. Like, you just can't
and be consistent
come in with it. And be consistent with it. Like, you can't do it on Monday and not do it on Tuesday. So, I think that, like you said, this conversation has been about giving it back, where women don't necessarily have to do that. We know that we're going to have to play a role somewhere, but it belongs to the men, and their dealings of how they teach and do. I know we have to wrap, but I appreciate this conversation and being able to bring it to the couch. The hope is that as we talk about it, that our listeners have gotten something out of it, something that they can chew on. I think having this conversation, especially in this day and age, is very important. What am I teaching my children? What am I doing? Whether I'm a single parent, I got dad at home, or whatever that looks like, because we have a lot of our men incarcerated. We have a lot of our men who have, stepped out, and we need to fix that. We need to fill in the gap as much as we possibly can. So, we go back to that, each one teach one, but we have to be sincere, about what we're doing. But thank you, Connie and Joshua, so much in having this conversation. I mean, I thought it was good, and I thought it was right on point, because we need more of that, especially in the Black community, but in every community, because we know that it happens everywhere with
Everywhere.
everyone. So definitely want to make sure that that you're getting something. I'll throw a book out there. I don't exactly know the author, but the book is called The Mountain Is You, and it talks a lot about self-sabotage, becoming the best that you can be, the person. Atomic Habits is a good one. That one's by James Clear. There's also a workbook that comes along with that too. And I think there's another one that's called The Dysfunctional Man. That book is actually written by a gentleman that I go to church with. His name is Jeff. Jeff is going to kill me because I don't know Jeff's last name. But The Dysfunctional Man, you can find it on Amazon. Really good book, really good guy. He's part of the ministry there. So there's a lot of leading and guiding, in these resources. So definitely check those things out. But thank you guys so much for joining us here on the couch. Catch us here every Thursday, 7 p.m., Hindsight Media Radio 103.5 FM. You can also catch us out on YouTube. And when you're out there, give us a like, share, and subscribe.